Good morning, students. Today's topic is discussion about Ruby. What do you mean by Ruby? What is Ruby? Ruby is not a stone. Ruby is one of the dynamic, open source and object-oriented and reflective programming language. What do you mean by Ruby? Ruby is a dynamic, open source, object-oriented and reflective programming language. This is Ruby. Ruby is not a store. Ruby is considered similar to Perl and Smalltalk programming language. Ruby is like also Python, C++ language. It runs on all types of platforms like Windows, Mac, OS, and all versions of Unix. It is fully object-oriented programming language. Ruby is a fully object-oriented programming language. Everything in an object in Ruby, everything an object in everything in an object in Ruby, each and every code has their properties in Ruby. Each and code has their properties and actions. Here, properties refer to variables. Properties refer to variables and actions refer to methods. In Ruby, properties refer to variables and actions refer to methods. Ruby is considered to follow the principle of POLA, principle of least astonishment. POLA means principle of least astonishment. It means that the language behaves in such a way to minimize the confusion for experienced users. It based on the principle of POLA. POLA means the language behaves in such a way to minimize the confusion for experienced users. History of Ruby. Ruby is designed and developed by Yukihiro Matsumoto in mid-1990 in Japan. This is a Japan. Future of Ruby. What are the future or importance of Ruby? Ruby is a great object-oriented scripting programming language. Looking at its past, we can say that it has a bright future if its community members continue expanding it beyond the thinking. Features of Ruby. There are important characters of features of Ruby are Ruby language has many features. Some of them are explained below. First feature of Ruby is object-oriented flexibility, expressive feature, Mixins, visual appearance, dynamic typing and duck typing, exception handling, garbage collector, portable, keywords, statement delimiters, variable constants, naming conventions, keyword arguments, method names, singleton methods, missing method, case sensitive, object oriented. Ruby is fully object oriented programming language. These are all features or characteristics of Ruby. Each and every value is an object in Ruby. Every object has a class and every class has a superclass. Every code has their properties and actions. Ruby is influenced with Smalltalk language. Ruby is influenced with Smalltalk of language. Rules applying to objects applies to the entire Ruby. Flexibility. Ruby is a flexible language as you can easily remove, redefine, or add existing parts to it. It allows its users to freely alter its parts as they wish. Mixins. Ruby has a feature of single inheritance only single inheritance. Ruby has classes as well as modules. A module has methods but no instances. Instead, a module can be mixed into class which adds the method of that module to the class. It is similar to inheritance but much more flexible. Visual appearance. Ruby generally prepares English keyword and some punctuation is used to decorate Ruby. It does not need variable declaration. Dynamic typing and duck typing means Ruby is a dynamic programming language. Ruby programs are not compiled. All class, module, and method definitions are built by the code when it run. Ruby variables are loosely typed language, which means any variable can hold any type of object. When a method is called on an object, Ruby only looks up at the name irrespective of the type of the object. This is the duck typing. It allows you to make classes that retain to the other classes. Variable constants in a Ruby's. In Ruby, constants are not really constant. If an already initialized constant will be modified in a script, it will simply trigger a warning but will not halt your program. Naming conventions. Ruby defines some naming conventions for its variable, method, constant, and class. Constant starts with a capital letter. Global variable starts with a $sign. Instance variable starts with a sign. Class variable start with a S sign. Method name allowed to start with a capital letter. Method name start to write with a capital letter. Keyword arguments. Like Python, Ruby methods can also be defined using keyword arguments. Method names. Methods are allowed to end with question mark or exclamation mark. By convention, a question sign with questions mark and method can change with exclamation mark. Singleton methods. Ruby singleton methods are per object methods. They are only available on the objective to define the term. Missing method. If a method is lost, Ruby calls the method underscore missing method with name of the lost method. Statement or delimiters. Multiple statements in a single line must contain semicolon in between, but not at the end of line. Keywords. In Ruby, there are approximately 42 keywords which cannot be used for other purpose. They are called reserved words. Case sensitive. Ruby is a case sensitive language. Lowercase letters and uppercase letters are different. Ruby is a case sensitive language. Thank you.